Hello and welcome to another episode of the Simon and Friends podcast. I'm Simon Short. Joining me this week is Peyton Davila of Two Peas on a Pod. Peyton, welcome back in, man. How you doing?
I am doing great, Simon. Really happy to be here. Glad that we've actually been able to consume actual football since the last time we talked and get some thoughts on paper about some of the teams and what we really think about the way that these first 3 weeks have gone for them. How we think that's probably going to, forecast to how they move going forward. Um, yeah, I'm just really excited. I've enjoyed the first 3 weeks. As per usual with the NFL, lots of unexpecteds have come at us. This past week was full of them in a lot of ways, but very happy to get into it with you.
Absolutely. So as Peyton mentioned, this is our first in-season podcast of this show that Peyton and I do. So if you're a newer listener or watcher of the Simon and Friends podcast, first off, thank you for being here. You may have noticed already that the theme of this podcast, what we do is it's Simon and Friends. So I have a couple friends pop on a regular basis once a month, and we have a theme. We have something we do every single month. So Josh comes on for our power rankings once a month. Ben comes on for draft talk once a month. Peyton comes on for awards talk once a month. And then there's a wild card week where I do some weird stuff. But this is our first in-season show for me and Peyton of awards. So what we like to do during the season is just every 4 weeks, what's something we want to talk about? What's a thing that we just want to highlight? Maybe it's a trend. Maybe it's a way of players developing. Maybe it's the way teams are utilizing new rules or utilizing a new style of play or new coaches, something. Just something that we want to focus on that maybe isn't the we talk about it every week, highlight kind of thing right in our face. Something that's going to tell us the story of the season for a particular team as the year goes on. So we have these monthly awards. You if you saw the off season, we do our preseason awards. We had to talk about what the MVP is. We do draft stuff, but this is what this theme is going to be for the next 6 months or so. We're just going to come on, talk about some stuff that's happening during the NFL season. So if you're here on YouTube checking that out for the first time, welcome. Thanks for being here. Like, subscribe, comment with some of your favorite things and just your responses to some of the things we talk about. We'd really appreciate it. Here's a quick little glimpse, Box Score Network, quick reminder, head over to that YouTube channel as well. That's where you'll see stuff from various pods on the network, but these are all the pods that are a part of what we do. Peyton and Two Peas on a pod with his brother Parker. They do our waiver wire show. That's a segment of their weekly pod that goes on the YouTube channel Tuesday mornings. Austin and Ben and Parker and a collection of hosts try to get your start sit questions answered for Sunday mornings as well. Check that out. Sunday mornings on YouTube. Most of the time, we'll have some start sit questions answered there. And then all the other pods on the network, we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But Peyton, let's dive in now. I want to know your first award that you're handing out here after the first few weeks of the NFL season.
So my words this time around are kind of dawned regarding famous post game presser items like quotes that we get from coaches. So this first one's going to be really annoyingly named, if I'm being honest, and this is going out to the special teams units across the NFL. And throughout the first 3 weeks, I'm calling this award the Bill Belichick's 683 word answer about the role of the punt protector award. Essentially, just giving an ode to the special teams showing up in the first 3 weeks of the NFL season, especially this past week. This past week had
Hmm.
many game changing and altering events that took place specifically on special teams. Most notably, Jordan Davis and Will McDonald blocking kicks in their games and kind of shifting how the games happen. Now, obviously, one resulted in a game-winning play. The other one
Hmm.
resulted in just making the game more interesting in the moment before Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield end up having a game-winning drive as they always do. So, but more importantly, I think you and Robertson talked about this about the kickoffs, right? And how it's completely changing how we treat the kickoff as a phase in the game, right? I don't want to necessarily focus too much on that because I think you guys did a really good job of covering it. My idea is really something that I think is more about untapped potential on special teams, and it really sparked an idea, not even an idea, but like a realization, specifically with Jordan Davis and Will McDonald. And to me, it's just about the idea that utilizing supreme athletes on special teams could become a really notable competitive advantage. Whenever you think of, especially like blocking kicks, right? If you can execute it properly, it's probably the easiest way that anybody can score a touchdown. Because if you block the kick, the ball more often than not, if you block it properly, is going to go in the other direction, and there's no defenders behind the kickers. So
Hmm.
typically, if you execute it right, which it takes a lot of different elements, like don't get me wrong, there's a reason why we don't see it happen all the time, but it can very much be a weapon in your arsenal as a team if you're able to execute it the right way. Now, could it have been just dumb luck that Jordan Davis and Will McDonald were able to do this? Yes, but I think it's really important to realize that there's a reason why those two players were put in those positions in the first place. They're two of the most athletic defensive linemen in the entire league, first off. And I think that the other thing to realize is that at least for, now it's a little different, I think, in their careers, but for a long time, these two guys were part-time players. They were
Hmm.
not like full-time starters. And the thing is, and I talked about this with you a little bit before we started the pod, but like it's really hard to find stats on special teams,
Hmm.
just straight up. So
Hmm.
I was even trying to find like, okay, like what's the snap counts on Jordan Davis and Will McDonald when they go into these like kick block formations? Couldn't really find any, unfortunately. So I don't know if this is something they've been doing all the time because, sorry, I haven't been locked in to the special teams defense when it comes to blocking field goals, or defending field goals rather. But I think those two players are examples of how part-time freak athletes can provide more value to their team if they're not full-time players on the defense, specifically the defensive linemen. These are the guys that I think I wanted to target because they seem the most equipped to kind of hone on this specific skill and almost use it as this game-changing, altering weapon for any team that goes up against, a team that's kicking a game-winning field goal or a field goal that is going to take the lead. Something to that extent where you can actually practice this and make it a more effective part of your special teams defense, so to speak. And the part that I wanted to get into is kind of like thinking about players who fit this mold and like in really the untapped potential around the league. So what I did is I went and looked and I kind of nerded out a little bit. Jordan Davis and Will McDonald both super high in RAS score. RAS score, for all you
Yep.
who don't know what it is, relative athletic score. It's a newer, you know, analytical tool that's meant to just help us figure out how athletic a guy is relative to his position. And Jordan Davis, I don't remember their exact ones because I didn't write them down, but I do remember like the general range. They're both like 9.8 or something at their position, which is 9.999 or 10. I think 10. It goes
Jordan
up to
Davis
10,
got
I
a
think.
10. Hmm.
Okay. So Jordan Davis got a 10. I don't remember what Will McDonald was, but he
I'll,
was also very
I'll
high on
find
the
it.
rest.
9. Oh, wait, these are two different ones. Okay, hang on.
Is there a different
Nine.
Will McDonald who's also really athletic?
What is this? What's going on? I wonder if one is pro day
It might be.
versus. Yeah, I bet that's what it is. Let's just say 9.7. Let's just say it's very green.
Yeah. So
He wasn't so skinny when he was coming out.
I was looking at guys who kind of fit the same mold, where it's a high draft pick relative to Jordan Davis and Will McDonald. Jordan Davis was a first round pick, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, both of them first round picks. Both of them started off as part time players and both really high RAS scores. And I kind of looked for guys that fit this mold that could add additional value to their teams by possibly just becoming really good at this one thing. And it sounds crazy because it is. It's really mad scientist of me to try and think
I'm
that you
just
can
so mad
practice
you
this.
did this without telling me because I would have been doing this
Well,
all like earlier today if you
like
had told me
thinking of
this was the
guys who fit
insane pro.
this.
Yeah, this sounds like the best time.
For the four guys in particular that like really fit what I think that they could use, like these respective teams could use these guys as these
Hmm.
type of weapons. One that made just like way too much sense, Chop Robinson. Chop Robinson,
Mm.
part-time pass rusher, like super, literally one of the like the craziest athletes in his class. I and the thing about the blocking of field goals, right? It seems like if you can just have a high enough vertical to just hop over the line without propelling yourself over it and you don't have to jump over the center, there's a really easy like way to defend it. It
Because
seems
that's what Will McDonald did, right? He didn't he
correct.
jump over the center of his,
Yes,
and
but you can't
he's
jump over. You like can't
you
jump
can't
over
touch a
the
guy. Yeah, you
right. You
can't
can't
touch the
touch
guy.
him, and you can't jump directly over him, but you can jump
Right,
through the gap.
right.
So there's a very like sound
It
and
it's
legit
the
technique to
jumping
it.
over the garage door sensor thing where it's
Yes,
like you don't really have to jump over anything,
right,
but you just have to like those like 3 inches off the ground you have to get while not hitting
right,
your head on the garage door. Yeah.
right.
Hmm.
There is a technique to it, and Chop Robinson is one that I came across like that fits the mold because he's not playing full a lot of snaps right now, and I like a lot of these are, I guess you could say like teams that honestly kind of need these types of like players to prevent because their defenses are somewhat struggling right now.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, Trent Simpson from the Baltimore Ravens. I know he's a
Hmm.
linebacker, but
Hmm.
super
Hmm.
high RAS score, part-time player right now, and I think that he is another guy who's capable of doing it.
And like he might not have a roster spot very long if he,
Maybe not.
yeah,
If he
I think he's already, I think he, didn't he already get benched essentially?
he essentially did, yes. So that's why I'm kind of looking for guys who are
Yeah.
not playing full a lot of snaps so you can provide more value. So maybe,
Yep.
hey, you can save yourself,
Yep.
and keep yourself on the roster if you're really good at this one thing. Another guy who kind of follows that in that mold, especially considering he has not been what we thought he would be as an edge rusher, Miles Murphy. Super
Mm.
athletic,
Hmm.
not a very good pass rusher, as we
Yeah.
found out. But I think he would be well equipped for this. And last one, Keon White, who has kind of shown flashes, but super high
Interesting.
RAS score. And I wonder if all these are just like thought experiments, really.
Yeah.
It's not like anything pen to paper, and it's not some like super profound observation of like the first 3 weeks as maybe you might have expected. But it's more about just realizing that where are the advantages that we can find in this like super modernized version of the NFL, right?
Yep.
You
Hmm.
guys talked about it in kickoffs, right? With I
Hmm.
mean, and it seems like just to like kind of I guess touch on that part of it, they, teams are kind of doing the same thing that I'm suggesting, but with the kickoff duties
Yep.
and punt return duties. Like Debo Samuel, like his
Hmm.
kickoff duties, and he's excelling at it. Kendre Miller, not exactly what we thought as a running back, but he's able to add value as a kick returner as a third round pick. Marvin Mims I was already a seasoned punt returner, but
Hmm.
good kick returner. Blake Corum, Luther Burden, Travion Henderson now. So like these guys who are highly drafted assets are adding value to their team because now the kickoff matters more, which you probably
Hmm.
already, I know you kind of already talked about that, but this alternative way of it with the block kicks thing is just another way where I think that maybe there is, even though it sounds crazy because it is, that these teams can kind of add value and say, look, we have these supreme athletes on our team that might not be able to like hone in on technique to be a full time player at the position we draft them to be. But if they can get really good at this one skill,
Yep.
they can literally flip a game on its head.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it was just more of a thought experiment, but it was kind of my addendum to your conversation with Robertson, just about how special teams is having, I feel like, a bigger impact than I've really ever thought it would in many ways.
I love this because when like I think about these special teams coaches and for a long time in my life between the time that I realized there were special teams coaches and then like maybe the last 3 years when I really realized what exactly they were doing, game in and game out. They're just like, okay, tell the guy to kick it and then go run. What are these coaches doing? And like I think a little bit of the time that probably was happening to some of these guys. And they end up with other duties. We've seen a lot of special teams coaches be like the associate head coach or be the interim head coach when the head coach gets fired because it's like, yeah, you're not really doing much anyways, guy. But I wonder if now because they're on these like committees now for these new kickoff rules. So like, are their minds like working a little bit? Are they kind of flexing the old coaching and thinking muscle again for the first time in a few years? And yeah, like how can they do this now? So what's the next? Yeah, what's the next thing, right? Coaching in the NFL is innovating, right? It's what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Stay ahead of the game, stay ahead of the game. And so the head coach might be looking at a special teams coordinator and say, okay, we got this kick return thing down, but like, hey, what's next, right? Do you see Jordan Davis block that kick? How can we make that happen? So it's funny the Steelers special teams coach, Danny Smith, he has a very like large say in what happens in Pittsburgh. Like they are very aggressive from a special team standpoint. Now it's ironic because I have, you know, Caleb Johnson there
Right.
in the picture fumbling that or not fielding that kick and giving up a touchdown. But the Steelers star players have played on kick block team for a long time. Like Cam Hayward is out there. He's out there a lot, just like blocking for the extra points and field goals as well. But he's out there trying to block kicks. For a long time, Minka Fitzpatrick and Joe Hayden were side by side on the very edge, and they between the two of them working together, they would block one or two kicks a season. There was one, I forget who they were playing, but it was Hayden's last year, and they one of them blocked it, and one of them returned it for a touchdown and ended up
I
getting called
vaguely
back.
remember that.
But I think about other guys in the AFC North, like Calais Campbell was on every field goal block team. I think he blocked a field goal this week, or was close, or was in on one of those. Like 6'8", man, just get those arms up. Um, I do really like this, and like same thing with Danny Smith. Like he always schemes up Miles Killebrew for like two pump blocks a
Yeah.
season. So like it's a thing that like some of these coaches are doing, and yeah, the more these kickoffs can be a part of the game, how much more will more of these coaches try to take on and make happen. And just as the league gets better and as the talent gets better and the players get smarter, um, and like the backups are just better than they've ever been. Yeah, man, this is your way to play. And like that, like special teams has always kind of been the on ramp to a full time offensive or defensive spot. So just the more impact you can have as a player would be huge. It's funny, like I know you said it's not to get too gritty and having a conversation about these four guys, but like of course I want to. Um, it would be interesting for these guys, and you know you think about who the best guys at these things are. And I either think of like the long defensive backs who can really stretch out on those extra points coming around the edge, or yeah, just like the Jordan Davis, like get that big paw up in the middle. But yeah, these builds, these like more because you know the first two guys I thought of when you said this were two Cardinals hybrid super athletic players that
I know
never fully
one of them.
realized
I know who exactly you're talking
Isaiah
about.
Simmons and
And
Zaven
and
Collins.
David Collins. David Collins was another one that I actually was going to put on the list, but I was like, I wonder if he just plays too much on defense for them to
Yeah,
consider
now, like
this.
now he kind of does. Yeah,
That was
but
kind
like
of yeah,
if Isaiah Simmons had ended up on a team with like, because here's the other thing, like at least with the Steelers, and I'm sure every team has this to a degree, but like those last five or six spots on the roster, those are like these guys have to be core special teamers. These guys have to be four phases, all four units, and they have to be good at it and trusted at it. So when you see these cuts on your favorite team, it's not just like, oh, that this wide receiver is so much better than that wide receiver. Well, the one that made it is like a real gunner. Like he can run
right.
down kicks like a MFer. So he's that special teams coach banging the table for that guy. Um, wouldn't it be fun if a team drafted and you know these are the guys that are like undrafted, like failed day two, day three picks who are just like trying to make it up, you know, hang on. Um, but wouldn't it be fun if teams were given a little more leeway with first round picks who it's like, you know, our development plan for this guy is he's going to play about 60% of the snaps. Okay, then can he play three phases on special teams and we like use him for something? Can we, you
Right.
know, can we like in the NBA, say you have a first round pick who's a rookie. Let's use Jonathan Kaminga.
Sure.
His rookie year, you know, has its ups and downs, but it's like, ooh, you got a guy of that talent playing 12 minutes a game on a team trying to win a championship. That could be hugely effective. Like if his talent can overshoot the role that you're actually, my gosh, that's pretty incredible. So same thing here, like Chop Robinson, a first round edge rusher that I just get to use as a fun toy on special teams because
Right.
he's not playing every snap on defense. Yeah, get like let's draw up some funky stuff instead of this guy who like isn't athletic enough to ever be a star defensive player. Let's get a guy who's going to be one next year and do some with him. This is fun. We've already been on 19 minutes, and you know this is what happens with. I know you were like, we'll just zoom past this one. Special teams kind of
I
into
mean,
it. That's
I
why I've
felt
got
like
five pictures of special teams plays here on this graphic here. I'm really excited about.
yeah, like I mean, we're like Dr. What's his name? Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker, where it's just like this crazy scientist lab, and we're drumming up like these ideas for special teams, and it probably, in the end, it probably would result in like some significant season-ending injury if one of these teams tried to do this, because it is like involving a guy hurtling over another guy and going untouched. When more often than not, maybe he won't go untouched. So, it seems really good in theory, but I do think that it's just one of those things that as we get further down the rabbit hole of like
Yep.
finding the edges in the game from a schematic standpoint, that this is something that I think has untapped potential to it after seeing what happened this past week.
I love it. Next month, be ready. Peyton and I are going to come back with full 11-man units on extra point block, punt return, punt block of guys all made up of people who play less than 70% of snaps for their respective unit. And it's going to be judged based on highest RAS scores and draft pedigree and creativeness that is ensued. So be on the lookout for that, everybody. Can't wait for the social clip. All right, so here's my theme, Peyton, for this month's awards. I'm combining this show with a show I did last year with John Boyd, which was rage quitting the NFL season, and I did it 3 weeks into the year, and it was like inevitably there are teams who things go wrong at the beginning of the season. And it's kind of like when you're playing video games, right? So when you're playing video games, there's 3 ways that you kind of just like quit when things don't work out. I want to know, what order do you want me to take this in? Do you want me to start with the like, it's not a big deal, it's a quick fix, or should I start with the most dire situation?
Let's go. It's not a big deal,
Okay.
and elevate
So
up to the big deal.
here's the first version. So you're playing a video game, right? And I'm not good at video games, so I don't really have any takes on this. But like you're fighting the final boss, and like your thumb slips on the joystick, and you get your head blown off or something. I don't know. And you're like, I know what to do. I know how to fix this. I'm not gonna worry. I'm just gonna boom restart this mission, right? So here is the quick reset award, and it's going to the Pittsburgh Steelers and their defense. Um, the Steelers are 2-1, which is good for them. That's great. Their defense kind of sucks right now. I don't know if you know this, Peyton, but I thought this was going to be a top three defense this year. Many people thought this was going to be at least a top 10 defense this year. Obviously, the big trade, Minka Fitzpatrick out, Jalen Ramsey in. Of course, you've got the Cam Hayward contract situation, but you also bring in veteran Darius Slay to play the other corner spot. So through 3 games, the Steelers have given up 77 points, which is 24th in the NFL, 1,158 yards, that's 29th, and are ranked 24th and 22nd in DVOA and EPA per play, respectively. And yet, thanks to 8 timely forced turnovers, that's second in the NFL, the defense has helped the team get to that 2-1 record. Unfortunately, this speaks to a misalignment of the offense and defense for the Steelers in 2025. Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf were brought in to be just enough offense to complement an elite defense. One with all pros like Hayward and Watt, priority free agent signing last year, Patrick Queen, Ramsey, Slay, other free agents like Juan Thornhill, Brandon Eccles that came in. But the league's most experienced and certainly one of the oldest and more expensive defenses has had to be the complementary unit instead. So while Pittsburgh's defense is battling injuries, first round pick Derek Harmon just played in his first game, got a sack too in his first game. Alex Highsmith got injured in week 2. Joey Porter Jr. and Deshaun Elliott, starters in the defensive backfield, injured week 1. And they're working through the kinks of the new starters. It's certainly playing more like a heady veteran group making smart plays when needed rather than a dominating force. And for a team to be successful, that's the type of defense you need when you have an above average offense. But instead, it's flipped. The offense is being counted on to be more consistent, put up more points, instead of the offense being the like, just get that last touchdown at the end of the game, the way Pittsburgh usually likes to do it. Now, maybe this is all just growing pains. Maybe they're working out the communication kinks of several new starters, especially on the back end, and maybe a quick reset here. Just get everybody back healthy. Like, oh, all these guys got hurt. Oh, we busted that one coverage 2 games in a row. Like, oh, that this is a quick fix. We know what to do here. Hit quick reset, start over, everybody healthy week 1. Boom, we got this. Or maybe there's going to be like a little bit bigger of an issue because when I'm watching that game and it's like the announcers are saying like, oh, this new defense, they've got to work through these issues. they had to work through issues last year. That's why you got new guys and you got veteran guys like Ramsey and Slay because we thought the on ramp would be a little bit quicker, a little bit easier. So I have my hesitations with this, but I think of all three teams that I kind of wanted to talk about and the way they would restart their season, there's not like a real fundamental. I would go all the way back and change this one thing, right? This is just a like the talent is seemingly here, so can we just like hit reset real quick and see what happens? How are you feeling about the Pittsburgh Steelers defense?
Defensively, I was not as optimistic as some people were coming into the season, and my biggest concern was yes, after the trade for Jalen Ramsey, like I know that people were somewhat optimistic. I that was my biggest gripe with Steelers defense was actually the defensive backfield. I just was not very sold on the idea that you're going to bet on these. And I do respect Jalen Ramsey. He's still a good corner. He's definitely not the Jalen Ramsey of old, despite like he's made a couple like obviously the week one play that a lot of people point to, and it's like he still got it, but really a lot of these guys are just past their prime. They make highlight plays every now and then, but over the course of the entirety of the game, I never really had this idea that they were going to be a trustworthy group to be a plus coverage unit, and that's
They look old. They look
yeah,
old out there.
that was kind of like what I expected. Um, what I didn't expect is just that the pass rush is just not
Hmm.
as effective as I thought it would be. Because I thought that maybe there was a chance that they could kind of survive, like and be a middling unit because the pass rush is so good. The coverage might not even matter. But that's just not the case. It doesn't seem, which is what gets them to what was it 24th DVOA that he ended up
Hmm.
with. So
Hmm.
I think that my that was never something that I was super optimistic about in the first place, so that part's not surprising. But the fact that they're not really getting home like the Steelers defense that we know with, and I know that Highsmith got hurt, and Hayward is another year older. I mean, heck, T.J. Watson another year older. I know that he is like the guy, but I mean, he's not super young anymore. Like he's just
No,
not
he's not showing the signs
right.
of aging. That's for sure. Hmm.
Right. And so to me, it's just a matter of I think it's not too far off from what I maybe anticipated, except for the pass rush component. That's really it for me.
The thing with and if you guys go on Box Score Network, you'll see I think it was me and Ben reacted to the trade of Minka for Ramsey. And the whole thing for me when that happened was Ramsey should have been the finishing piece. And instead, you're almost starting over because they're still playing defense like Minka is in
Right.
center field. Which the whole reason they traded Minka was because they were like, we could probably get a cheaper person to play center field and do the same things. And it's like, that's great in theory. And that's why I eventually came around to it because I was thinking what they would do with like the guys closer to the front and even the corners would be like a little bit more interesting. But now they're just kind of like one Thornhill, B Minka Fitzpatrick. Instead of like, okay, if I'm gonna get a player that's 60% of Minka, I'm gonna ask for 60% of Minka because I'm asking for 120% of what I was asking for the corners last year. Now, maybe part of that is Porter being hurt when he's supposed to kind of be the outside guy one, and now Ramsey is that. I had my hesitations about Slay just because of the age, but hey, if it's
Yeah.
Slay and then like at some point it's gonna be Echoes, like okay, maybe we can make this work, and Ramsey's just in the slot, but now Ramsey's on the outside. It's all it's all jumbled up, which is why I'm giving them the reset award. Like, hey, let's kind of see what could happen if maybe this time everyone's just healthy and we don't bust those coverages those two
Yeah.
times, and maybe this looks a lot better after a couple weeks. But um, if they just play defense the way they've played defense for 2 years with this roster, it's not going to get better. So this reset would be a better start plus now we can get more advanced and more intricate, not oh, we got to keep playing this simple and just hope these 30-year-olds hold up.
And I guess the most recent example of what we've seen from the Steelers defense was against this Patriots team. And if you watch that game, which I actually watched the majority of it, it was in the four box for me, and I do this thing where I try to watch the games while I'm on a treadmill, so I'm not really on my phone, like sitting down. So a lot of time I'm like focused on the TV so that I don't fall off the treadmill and break my ankle. And so I actually watch these games pretty intently when I do that. And the thing about it, and you mentioned the turnovers. If it weren't for the turnovers, the
No
Patriots
shot.
win that game, and it's not
Yeah.
really close. To me, and this is a Patriots unit that has had a lot of issues early on offensively, especially in the passing game, and to see what the Patriots were able to do passing wise against the Steelers defense, and I mean, really, just altogether was very alarming for the Steelers. So I know they won the game, but I am not going to like be really pumped about that
No,
win if I
no,
and I'm sure you're not
no.
considering that the defense didn't really do anything to win that game.
Right now, it is a very expensive bend don't break defense, and it would
Yeah.
be it's again the NBA team that like can hang around and keep it close for 4 quarters and then just make the shots they need at the end or come up with the defensive stop at the end. It's the NFL team that like it's what the Steelers have been for years, where it's like the offense just keeps it close and then they can just have a great 2 minute drive at the end of a game.
Yeah. Very Miami Heat like esque if I
Yeah. Yeah,
so
except it's the most expensive defense in the NFL, so I
right.
don't know. I don't know. All right, Peyton, what's your next award?
My next award is going to be the Seattle Seahawks. This award is going to be titled "They Were Who We Thought They Were," in the famous words of Dennis Green. All right, rest in
Hmm.
peace to Dennis Green,
Hmm.
former coach of the Vikings and the Cardinals. And with Seattle, this is more about just the preseason narratives that we had. We being the general like media and wannabe like sports talking heads out here. Um, about Seattle having maybe some kind of identity. That the identity of the team was all kind of theoretical, and we kind of hadn't seen it really put into place outside of a couple of flashes from the defense last year, right? And with Sam Darnold coming in, a lot of hesitation on what this offense would be. But now we're 3 weeks into the season. First off, the defense is number one in DVOA. For those who don't know, the defense, the Mike McDonald effect. I still do that so many times,
And they're
but
so different.
they
They're
are
so
very
different.
different,
But I do it all
clearly.
the time.
But the Mike McDonald effect has completely just overcome the roster, at least the defensive side of the roster. I would say that we'll get to offense in a second, but defensively, this is Mike McDonald's like wet dream of what he wants to do on the football field. Um, it does seem like the secondary is fully healthy and kind of like back to what we thought it would be um, with those corners and even like um, going to the defensive line and actually having a game breaking healthy interior defensive tackle that Mike McDonald likes to run his defense through in Byron Murphy, who is having a very good season already. And really, if he's healthy, I think that's like weirdly the like skeleton key for the defense for Mike McDonald is like if he has that, he can basically do whatever he wants. Um, and I know that it's only San Fran, Pittsburgh, and New Orleans. So yes, there may be like some kind of tempering of expectations, but it's more about that we kind of know what the Seattle team is now. And because I think there was a lot of uncertainty about how they were going to go about playing football this season. Yes, we thought the defense would be good, but the offense is really what I was kind of surprised by. Um, First off, like when you watch Donald, he's probably not everything he was last season in Minnesota,
Mhm.
but he's like playing well enough for this team to win games, and even if it is on the offense to win the games, like I think he can do it if he has to, kind of thing. Um, right now, I think the offensive line still has questions. It's I do think that I worry about the run game a little bit, which that's the component I think I'm like still not sure about. They have these two running backs who have proven they can be super effective and plus runners, but is the line going to be able to gel together in a way that's going to improve the run game significantly? And really, with Sam Darnold, you kind of do have to have that at some point because, like, as much as we just talked about Pittsburgh, like as much as in the preseason, people thought Pittsburgh could be a plus defensive unit. Same thing with like San Fran, maybe less so, but like These are not these all world defenses that we look at currently through 3 weeks of the season. So part of me wonders if offensively you could temper expectations, but like right now, Sam Darnold 9.0 yards per attempt, third highest in the league. So clearly he's still pushing the ball downfield like he did in Minnesota.
Oh yeah.
In addition to that, like JSN is being used like the Justin Jefferson of this offense, which is awesome to see. Like I think that it's so funny to see like how pre not preseason pre-draft narratives for both of those guys were very like, oh, he's just a slot receiver. Like he's only going to operate in the slot. He's going to be really good at it. But that's basically. And right now, like JSN is doing the same kind of like Justin Jefferson thing where he's just like, I'm going to be all over the field and you're not like, I'm just going to get open all the time. And I'm going to have 50% of the target share. You're not going to stop me. I'm going to get open and I'm going to do whatever I want. And I think the fact that they have that part is kind of the proof of concept offensively that he can operate that way with Cooper Kupp and now Torrey Horton, who's kind of emerging as a legit like tertiary pass catcher, that they can actually run a similar type of passing offense that Darnold had in Minnesota. It might not be like the exact same schematically, but it's more of the skill pieces that are there that can kind of fit into the same molds that he was familiar with last year, right? Which I don't think I necessarily expected to happen. Like I thought JSN was going to be good. I didn't know he was going to like evolve into this type of game breaking wide receiver before the season. So I think but really the point of this is like when I say they were who we thought they were, I think that we had this idea of what the Seattle team was going to be if everything worked out correctly. And so far, the proof of concept has really come through. And it's like they're going to be an elite defense if everything breaks right. They're going to be able to kind of like hold steady on the offensive line with Gray Zabel in tow and like with Abraham Lucas healthy enough to kind of like make the offense passable. And Sam Darnold's going to be able to not turn into a pumpkin and he's going to be like a decent NFL quarterback. And that's pretty much what's happening. Like everything that was theoretical in the offseason is kind of proving itself to be true so far through 3 weeks. Now, they haven't really gotten to a tough part of their schedule yet, so there's more tests coming for this team, but it's more about the Seahawks being a known quantity as far as like what we can expect them to operate as going forward the rest of the season, and that I think a lot of us are probably encouraged by like what we see to the point where many of us are probably thinking like, can this team win the division at this point? So
Love Seattle's defense. I was
yeah,
all in on that going into the year. I think there were very few questions about that working out the way it needed to, and it's sustaining injuries too.
yeah,
Devin Witherspoon has been out. Guys have been banged up. Guys have been leaving games. You mentioned Byron Murphy. Like Leonard Williams is off to another great
yeah,
start to the season. Those edge rushers are rotating around. DeMarcus Lawrence has been a great addition. My guy Ernest Jones is making
yeah,
plays. So like that defense is there, and yeah, it's not going to be a question. The part of the offense, I'm trying not to get fooled by two different things at the same time, right? Clint Kubiak, being a Kubiak coming from Shanahan tree, starts off last year with the Saints with that really
yep,
hot start, 2 weeks, especially tied to the run game. And we see it fizzle out because of injuries to Eric McCoy, Cesar Ruiz, and then eventually the rest of the line. We knew coming to Seattle, he certainly didn't have that center. And Gray Zabel, like, maybe will be as good as Ruiz right now, but he's a rookie, so maybe he won't. But you have strength at the tackle. So we didn't really know what to expect. And you said it. It's not like he's come and turned around this run game. It's like mediocre to average right now. It was really bad
yeah,
last year. So he's certain between him and Gray Zabel, certainly helpful. The other thing that's helpful is Sam Darnold is apparently the best deep ball quarterback in the NFL right now, along with Daniel Jones. Things I did not think I would say. I think I heard a stat today that Darnold is first in like explosive play rate for passing offense, like explosive pass plays. So far this season, he's also second in EPA per dropback on throws 20 plus yards down the field. And the Seahawks offense is, I believe I just saw fourth on an EPA per dropback on downs with 7 or plus yards to go. So like when they are in gotta throw deep situations, you mentioned JSN, Torrey Horn, it's been electric. And that's more promising than if like MVS was still on this roster
Yep.
and it was just like chuck it balls
Hmm.
down there. Like these are real like downfield concepts to like good young ascending players that we think this can happen. Now there needs to be another element, but your guy Elijah Arroyo, like, can he develop into a nice tight end over the middle? Can they use Ken Walker a little bit more in the pass game out of the backfield? Can Cooper Kupp stay spry and like I mean he made a lot of things work over the middle of the field for the defense or against that Steelers defense, which we just mentioned was a little soft, but um, that's the idea, right? If he's the JSN, because remember when they signed Cooper Kupp, it was like great, you signed another slot receiver. Like that's what. But if JSN is going to be downfield and Cooper Kupp can work that, that's great. Um, the thing that concerns me about where they're at with Darnold right now is their bottom five in passing on passing plays of short and intermediate yards in terms of EPA per dropback.
Which, if you watch the games, you can see that. Like, they're not really operating a lot close, like all the close, like quick game stuff. It's all these like downfield concepts that whenever they play a defense, it's gonna like rush the QB, not rush the QB, but like create less time to throw. It's where we're gonna find out a lot about the offense.
And this is the thing specifically with Kubiak because like we know what Darnold is, we know what Darnold, but
Hmm.
here what's going to be his counter? What's going to be Kubiak's counter? When a team takes away that deep ball, what does he have to work to? Is he gonna? Is all this stuff gonna? All this stuff downfield? Is that gonna create a light enough box to where this run game is eventually going to get going? Is that is like I said about Cooper Kupp, like working over the middle field or Elijah Roy? Are we eventually going to have a counter to work off of that?
Right.
That's where I get nervous. But in terms of like this award, yeah, this makes sense. Like this is what they had in theory. This is what they had in theory when I meant to pull up the specific contracts. I'm going to do that while I'm talking. But when they go from Geno to Sam Darnold, like,
Right.
hey, can we get a not an amalgamation, but like can we get a facsimile of a Geno Smith, right? Can we get what we would have gotten from Geno from Sam Darnold in a little bit more of a team friendly contract
Yeah.
situation.
Sure.
Um,
And with some kind of like long term, I would say like if it works out,
right.
you have a plan.
Right.
Where Gino is very much like at a point where it's okay. This is like a year to year proposition.
Yep. So Gino's getting 37.5 mil from the Raiders. Believe he got a 3 year contract, 37.5. No, that's two. That's two. So yeah, he got essentially a 2 year. Darnold got essentially that 3 year, but it's basically
Yeah.
year to year. And here's the thing. I remember when that came out and it was like Gino didn't get that much more than Sam Darnold. But you take a little more of a discount when you go to a different team, right? So from
Yep.
the he might have taken 37.5 from the Raiders, but maybe he wanted to get to that 40 number, right? And
Right.
maybe he wanted 3 years guaranteed. But he's willing to take a little less to the Raiders to go back to Pete Carroll, who he trusts, so he
Right.
knows there's like confidence in him. Whereas Seattle
It's
acted like
new.
they never had
It's a new
confidence
guy.
in him,
Right.
right? With Mike McDonald. So Darnold, I think just being 7 years younger and yeah, we'll take that year to year and a little bit cheaper aspect. They're like, hey, if we can just play this great defense, tell me if you heard me talk about this before tonight. If we could just play elite defense and then just like take shots downfield and get key touchdowns when we need them, the rest will work itself out. So for me, I want to see what the counter is going to be to this, but I think this award, especially for this part of the season, like this is it didn't take 6 weeks for them to show
Right.
what they were hoping to do. So now we just got to see the next thing. But this is exactly what I think they would have hoped for.
Now, last thing I'll say before we kind of tie the bow on the Seahawks award, the 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 point you made about the downfield passing game, where it's like right now you're hitting on these big shots, and part of the reason is I think that as a member of like Tory Horton gang, on Sunday, Sunday was a big moment for us because it was like, this is
Oh
the
yeah,
dude
baby.
that we saw who fell to the fifth round because of injuries. Like, this dude would have been a second round pick if he was healthy. Like, athletic freak, was a super producer at Colorado State, even if it was a small school. Like, he was a legit guy before he got hurt, right? And I wonder if what we're seeing right now, I think what happens is with these, especially when it's, not high draft capital rookies, they're, and this is more of like the human element, like you don't give them the respect that you should, if you're not kind of like familiar with their game. So it's very much the like real life version of the Shaq meme, like, sorry, I wasn't familiar with your game, when Torrey Horton is beating these guys downfield in coverage and finding the end zone multiple times already. So I guess my point is, I wonder if, like you're saying, if they do, if teams start to respect Torrey Horton's downfield ability, if that does end up kind of improving the run game, and then kind of like balancing out
Yes.
the two of what we're seeing now, where it's kind of a lot of downfield passing, none in the short game, and like the run game is just kind of like eh. Whereas once you start kind of putting the clamps, so to speak, I guess I guess respecting Torrey Horn a little bit more as even if he is like the third pass catcher, he's really like
Hmm.
the primary speedster downfield option. Um, that it bleeds into the other parts of opening up other zones in the defense that you can attack. So whether it's in the run game or in the short passing game. So like I wonder if maybe as each week progresses, we kind of see the production across the offense overall remain mostly the same, but it kind of like gets redistributed in a different way. Um,
And you can be an elite offense, not necessarily by relying on that, but it's not fluky to be a good downfield passing offense and be a good offense overall. Last year's top five offenses, on on plays of when the down yardage was 7 or more yards were the Ravens, the Lions, the Bucks, the Bills, the Packers. So I'm not saying that the Seahawks offense is going to be as good, but it's not a fluky stat. It's not, oh, because it's downfield there's going to be more variance. No, the
right.
good teams are good at this. So like if they can be really good at this and just at least stay average at other stuff to counter when they need to, this can long term be a pretty good offense. But I think this one is good for right now at this point in the season where we're at. Quick plug for what's going on over here. So I mentioned the stuff on YouTube. Here's Box Score Network. Um, but Two Peas on a Pod is giving you their reaction, Peyton and Parker, every single week. Tricky Takes is going to be at the end of the week, kind of previewing. Make sure you check out their YouTube channel as well for their Tricky 50. And Odds On Favorite is still giving you stuff. We talked about it with Robertson last week. They are focusing on the Commanders this season, so 70 chip cast. Make sure you're checking that out on the Odds On Favorite feed or Pro Football Enterprises YouTube channel. That's our friend Ben Parker's channel. And then because CONCACAF this week, Dom and Andy break down the U.S. Open Cup semifinals, preview the final, and talk about a hypothetical national stadium for U.S. soccer. So make sure you're checking out everything that's going on Box Score Network. All right, Peyton. So we're gonna do we want second highest degree of rage quitting the NFL season from me now. That's
Correct.
where we want. Okay. So we're going to the Las Vegas Raiders. And this is the return to last save point. Okay, so this isn't, oh, I just messed up some. I just got to go fix that real quick. It's okay. My last few series of decisions have led to an issue here. It's the reaping and sowing meme, which we have mentioned on this podcast before. Um, and here we are with the Raiders. I don't know if you know this, but the Raiders are the worst run game in the NFL right now. They are 31st in rush DVOA. They are 31st in run success rate. They're 32nd in EPA per rush. They're 32nd or the first, however you want to say it, in stuffed rate. So they get stuffed at the line of scrimmage more than anybody else. 32nd in rush yards over expected. 32nd in ESPN's run block win rate. 22nd in yards before contact. Um, by the way, this team took a running back 6 overall in the 2025 NFL draft and is one of the best running back prospects we've seen in the last decade. So that's not what you want to see. So first off, here's some notes on the games. I went back and I watched two of the games. I watched all the run plays from their first game with Jackson Powers Johnson because he actually got hurt at some point. I think he got hurt early in the second game, so he missed most of the second game. Shadow bench, kind of, but mostly just because of practicing on a short week in week 3. But Raiders fans weren't happy about that. Neither am I as a JPJ believer. Um, but I watched weeks 1 and 3. And in the first week against the Patriots, the line just doesn't have a lot of oomph. It's not a lot of people movers. And there was the whole thing about Jackson Powers Johnson was supposed to be the center this year, but Pete Carroll wanted Jordan Meredith to start, and Carroll doesn't think you can have an undersized guard. So he put Meredith at center. And Meredith is fine. And center, especially nowadays, I talked about this with Ben and when we did the O line ranking show. It's the position that most teams are just like, yeah, just throw a guy out there. But I think JPJ is going to be way better at center moving forward. And for a team that wants to be the smash mouth run game, especially they're fourth in total runs inside the tackles and percentage of their runs inside the tackle. So they want to run it right down your throat. But to have an undersized center do that at the point of attack really kind of defeats the purpose, especially because even JPJ was having problems sustaining blocks. So like for all 5 of their linemen to kind of be like lighter and quicker. Like Colton Miller's getting pushed back. Dylan Parham's never been the like biggest, most stout guy in the run game. Damari Glaze is just like whatever on at right tackle.
Yeah.
Like let's unlock a little bit of what you got going on here. Put JBJ in the middle and let these guys run, get out in space, do something. So let's get outside the tackles first of all. Um, but they were just getting pushed around by Christian Barmore and Mill Williams, especially in week 1. Now by week 3, Alex Kappa's in there for 2 weeks. They run a little bit better and it looks a little bit better. Kappa is getting a bigger push. So like let's keep Kappa in there. Let's take out Meredith. Let's put in JBJ at center and let's move a little bit. So maybe it's just, hey, last save point training camp. Let's not say Jordan Meredith is going to play center just because he's smaller, right? Let's really just make sure we get the 5 guys out here. Or last save point, hey, when we're designing our run game, let's maybe look at the talent we have. Let's say, hey, Cole Miller's always been a lighter tackle. Dylan Parham can move. JBJ is really good out in space. Maybe we adopt a zone blocking scheme and get out in space and run a little bit wide here. Um, so that's another one that they could do. Another one, maybe more dramatic. Are we sure it was the right idea to take Ashton Genty at 6 overall for this team?
It's almost like the problem wasn't Zamir White and Sincere McCormick. It's almost like we knew what the problem was, and they said, this is more fun."
It is more fun. I will say Zamir White got a couple of handoffs in the games I watched, and he is significantly slower than Ashton Genty. It
Yes.
was it was tough. It was tough to see. Because listen, when things are blocked, like I don't think this is a Genty thing.
No,
Um,
because I
and
think when he gets like whenever teams
yes,
line up, he actually looks like the
when
guy we
when
saw in
they're,
college.
I think some of his now it's ironic because some of the times they're running some wide zone stuff. His reads get really muddy really fast, and he's like cutting back too early, and he's not finding lanes. But when the power stuff works and they push and there is a gap, like he hits it quick and he gets through and he gets going. Um, but man, if this is going to be the line like this, so like last save point, do we take Genty at 6? Do we take Membu there instead? And then who's getting a lot of love right now is Cam Scadaboo, fourth round pick. Do we do something like that? Or go back to free agency? Alex Kappa, $5 million as a backup, that's fine. Jeremy Chin, versatile defensive back. I like Chin, but for 8 mil, that's fine. But if you combine that number, can you get Kevin Zeitler or Patrick McCarry? Zeitler's not having the best year to start in Tennessee, but he's a butt kicker. McCarry, the Jags are one of the best offensive lines in the league right now, by the way. We said this about Liam Cohen potentially doing that. Um, but you play one of those guys at guard and then JPJ is your center. Like, do you go all the way back to free agency and just change what you're trying to do with the line here? Um, this just is feeling like the Giants drafting Saquon all over again. And it's going to be a bummer for all of us to miss out on Genty being really good when he's young and this O line is bad. But then it's going to be great for the Eagles in 3 years when they get Genty and they win another Super Bowl. So, take what you will from it. But yeah, return to last save point Raiders. How do you feel about this run game right now? Like, are you really worried? Do you think it'll just take time to get going? And then like bigger picture, like how should they have maybe addressed this at some point in the offseason or training camp or something?
Well, going into draft season, like I mean, I saw the path to them drafting Genty at 6 because it was like, okay, worst run game in the league. It sure, if you had like really kind of looked at it on the surface, you could have come to the conclusion that this was like a Zamir White and Alexander Madison and Sincere McCormick problem. That you just don't have this game changing guy at the running back position, and that's the reason why you can't have an efficient run game. But I mean, the offensive line didn't show me, excuse me, anything last year that would indicate that they weren't the issue. So, and I know it's like second year JPJ. I still have high prospects for him as a player in the NFL. I think he can actually be good from what we saw at Oregon, and I don't think that I would agree with you. I don't think they're utilizing him correctly. I think they should let him play center. Um, like I know that they just did, but I'm saying like for the remainder of the season, kind of thing. Um,
Yeah, yeah, he needs to play center.
Now, the when you look at the alternatives, I like in retrospect, yeah, it's kind of it's the old like it's just now that we hindsight's 2020, we look at how this Raiders team looks, and it's very clear that maybe you should have gone the. I know that like it's easy to say you could have gotten Scadaboo, like you also could have gotten like Jarquez Hunter or like one of these guys that's
Right.
buried on, and
It
so
wasn't the easiest thing to restack the running backs because when I looked at running backs from 58 when they had
yeah,
their second pick, because by then there was that little run right where
yep,
Judkins and Henderson, all those guys went. So it actually was because like the next one was even like RJ Harvey, who's not doing
yeah,
anything for Denver right now. So it was like this is really just highlighted because Scadaboo just had an okay game, had a nice
right.
game Monday night or Sunday night, but so what was that wasn't the easiest stack, but I cherry picked it a little bit for sure.
Right, of course. So like you can think of it that way, and but I do think that might be a little dubious to think that you can just replace. I'm very much a defender of like these high end running backs and how valuable they are to these offenses. Now, the thing is, Pete Carroll very clearly came in with like an agenda. Like he does want to
Hmm.
run the ball. He wants
Yep.
his bell cow that he wants to just right away be able to trust and play. But the more interesting thing to me is that like he wasn't just giving Ginty all the snaps. It was like he only played like in week two. I think it was like 54% of snaps or something like weird like that, where he just wasn't on. And they're not using him in the passing game, which is also
Yeah, that's
weird
so frustrating. Hmm.
because he literally played wide receiver and then converted a running back. So you would think, oh, okay, yeah. So he has pass catching chops. Um, it's just very puzzling to me. Just I don't understand the usage. I don't understand how I'm more concerned about how they're using Genty versus
Hmm.
like the offensive line, because ultimately I think I didn't think it was very good coming in, and I think it's just the the idea that they were going to be a plus unit or like even average to begin with was kind of rich to me. But like I don't know, I think they can go from being the worst run blocking game in the NFL to like 25th. Like I think that especially because I think there are guys on it like you and I, if we are like, okay, Colton Miller's your left tackle, Alex Kapp is in their guard, and JPJ's at center, you got at least one really really solid half of the line that you could just like design a ton of run concepts towards,
Hmm.
right? So it can't be this bad is kind of my conclusion,
Chip Kelly literally said the term load management for Ashton Genty.
which is just like,
A
yeah, I
22-year
heard
old
that and it,
rookie who like man like look at Najee Harris. You just gotta go. You just gotta go. Like I that saw a tweet that was like the Chargers took the healthiest running back for 4 years who never missed a game, and he almost lost an eye and then tore his Achilles in like 2 months.
right.
And it's just like these once these backs hit 27, man, like anything can happen. And this isn't a running backs don't matter thing, but this is a like you can low manage them all you want, but anything can happen once a running back gets to however many carry 1,000 carries or whatever it ends up
I think
being.
it's like what is it, like 700 is the
Yeah,
number? I think
yeah,
it's like
like
there's
that
some
would be like
benchmark where it's
three
like,
really big seasons. Hmm.
yeah, there's like one benchmark where once you get to it, it's
All bets
the,
are off.
yeah,
So for the Raiders, I remember listening to you and Parker last year actually talk about Genty to the Raiders specifically, and it was like why do all the bad teams have these like high drafted running backs? And it was like for exactly this conversation that we're having. Like people take these high drafted running backs and they're bad and they think a running back's gonna change and it's not gonna work. But then when I went back and I watched some stuff on this O line, and I was like, okay, Jack Sparrow's John. To me, they met an acceptable bar of like you can do this. And the fact that nothing on the offense is working right now to me just makes it seem like but like we know there's several good players here. It just feels like there's a misalignment of stuff that's not happening. And so I just wonder if you get into training camp and you get the same group in and you just like reconfigure who is in the lineup and you maybe adjust the scheme a little bit. And I didn't look at snap count for the wide receivers, but I saw Matt Harmon talking about like Jack Besh getting on the field a little bit more,
Yeah, yeah.
like who's like a really good run blocking wide receiver. So like can you make more of that stuff happen? Um, and how much of this is like Brock Bowers is a little banged up, so like you can't get everything you want in the pass game, so it's affecting the run game. There's just like again with like the Steelers and this 3 weeks into the season, but there's a lot of little stuff that is adding up. Now it's the worst for a reason. Like this isn't like they're 18th and we wanted them to be 12th. They are literally the worst. So there's a lot to do here. But to me, it feels like there was something just in the like, how did we deploy this group? So this is the return to last save point. It's not all over. They don't have to regret the Genty decision already, um, because next year they could draft. They drafted two linemen at the end of the third round there. Now, ironically, Charles Grant from William and Mary is also best suited for a zone blocking scheme, but I'll leave that alone for now. Um, so those guys could develop. They could take two guys in the first 2 rounds next year, spend big money because they had more money to spend and they didn't want to in year one. They said they didn't want to spend. So like, do they get a big free agent next year? Do they draft a guy in the first round and then like it's all good? This isn't totally over yet, but it just seems like let's go back to the drawing board a little bit from the summer and make a few other decisions.
And I know this is like choosing between like dog crap and cat crap, but whenever you look at what I would say is like the second worst, but not by much, run game in the NFL in the Cincinnati Bengals, right? Um, I would argue that I think there's more room for upward mobility in the Raiders' run game than there is the Bengals'
Especially
run
now.
game. Yeah, and so I do think the brighter days are ahead. So I do think this is not. I think you've properly assign this to this middling tier of rage quitting. So I do think that they're in, just not to turn this into a fantasy conversation, but like I just don't know how much worse it can get for Genty's production. And I do think that he will be more evolved as the season progresses. Like it's just I don't think it's in Pete Carroll as a coach and as a manager of players to kind of keep this weapon that you're outside of, I guess, Brock Bowers, like this weapon that your whole run game and even like your whole offense is in a weird way like centered around, so to speak.
Yeah, load management means at some point
Yeah,
you're gonna let the reins loose. Now, how
correct.
long are you gonna wait? How far behind are you gonna fall before you make that decision? Hopefully it's not too late, but hopefully we
Right,
get there
right.
sooner rather than later. All right, time for your final award. What do you got?
A final award is the "That's My Team, That's My Quarterback" award. Famous words, Terrell Owens, and it really was just more like a way to assign the Bears an award, considering the Bears are kind of a hot topic, especially namely their quarterback and Caleb Williams in the first
Hmm.
3 weeks of the season. I think a lot of people would say he's still a very polarizing prospect, so to speak. I know he's already in the NFL, but still very young in his career and not fully fledged out. We're still trying to figure out what the heck he is as a quarterback. But people have very different opinions on how these first 3 weeks should be taken. Specifically, this past week's game against the Cowboys, which has kind of created a new wrinkle in the Caleb Williams journey in the NFL. I know it was Dallas, but the Bears' offense and Caleb Williams, I think, are figuring something out. Like I think it's actually even before in the Lions game, a lot of people are like, yeah, it didn't matter, but I thought Caleb was not the worst in that game. Like it looked totally different than the second half of the Vikings game to me. Um, I think it's important to remember that this dude is literally 3 weeks. I mean, I know they had a whole offseason, but like he's like 3 weeks into having this new guy call plays for him. It's a totally new offense, and I think it's just important to remember that. I mean, not to say it this way, but like Baker Mayfield, it's the old thing where he's had like what 8 different offensive coordinators through 8 years,
Yep.
and like yeah, it stunted his development a little bit. Like no, no kidding. So we expect Ben Johnson to be there for quite a long time, and he is the primary play caller. He's the one who is running the offense, and with that said, I think it's just having a little bit more leeway with this Bears team and with Caleb specifically because even though it did not look great in the first, like that first half of the Vikings game was okay, but the second half was bad, and then Lions game, even though it was like a blowout, essentially didn't look terrible, and then he comes in and basically blows the doors off the Cowboys, who are right now the worst passing defense in the league. So it's not really saying much, but with that said, Caleb now has the fourth highest EPA per play from this past week, which, of course, expected considering what he did to the Cowboys, which is just like he hasn't had a game like that in his career so far. So just seeing that it's in him is really encouraging.
Yes.
That he can actually do it. It's not just theoretical and like he's got the tools. He just has to like he actually put it all together for a single game sample size, but whenever he's only played less than 20 games, like that matters. And it also was possibly one of the worst coaching situations and play calling situations in Shane Waldron, right, last year, in the league. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing that I'm noticing about the Bears is the skill utilization, or skill player utilization, I should say, is night and day from like what it was the previous year, in a good way. You can tell that Ben Johnson is really embracing like what the Lions mold of player roles in the offense are, because you look at, especially the pass catchers specifically. Running backs is like the running game is still a work in progress. Not loving the run game, but this is more about like the passing game anyways, because it does relate to Caleb as a quarterback and what he's able to do through the air. Odunze seems to like finally that things are clicking offensively with the way that Ben Johnson is using him. I think that it was really worrisome what we saw last year. I think it was just really clear that they just did not know how to use this guy conceptually and schematically. And now that Ben Johnson is there, like I do think that Odunze is going to he's not going to be, I'm not going to call him the Amon-Ra St. Brown because they're not the same type of wide receiver. Like they just don't operate in the same spaces in the field, but Odunze does have this like downfield ability that I would argue, like I mean, I know Jameson Williams has that ability, but it's different. Like Luther Burden is being utilized more like Jameson Williams in his first 2 years with the Lions when Ben Johnson was there, which it's very clear that Ben Johnson handpicked him to kind of be that in that role with his athleticism coming out of Missouri. And then watching this past week, like it seems like they're starting. Like I know the first 2 weeks everybody was clowning them for taking Loveland over Warren, but this past week before he got hurt, it's like it's very clear they have a plan for him in the passing game. I think. Like I know he went down pretty soon, but I think he had like 5 routes, and when he was in the game running the routes, there was like concepts that actually made sense. The way that you use him as this athletic receiving only tight end that you're using as almost like a big slot. Right. Now they kind of have almost like a what's it called? Like a excess a little bit. Like there's almost too many guys in the room, and I'm not even talking about from like fantasy standpoint. I feel like almost they're kind of having trouble finding the right combinations at the right times, and Ben Johnson's probably realizing that there's going to be some odd man out because he loves Olamide Zaccheaus through these first 3 weeks. Like, and I understandably so, because like he has this downfield speed and even like lateral speed that a lot of people don't. It's one really good trick, but it's usable in this type of offense. Um, and the thing I'm interested to see is as we progress, like, is Caleb going to be comfortable with the like the mental load that comes with this offense, and like just having to be like a master processor in the way that Goff was expected to be and excelled at, right? And I think that's where I'm still kind of waiting to see if Caleb is the quarterback that we think he's going to become. Because I think that's where the question still remains. Now, the encouraging, like, and what I mean, like, when I say that is, and I guess statistically this is the thing that's supporting that it's kind of not all there, is that the completion percentage above expected is still in the negative. So,
Hmm.
which is not really what you want to see from like a passing efficiency standpoint. So he's still not, hitting guys when he should, based on the way the plays are schemed up and who's open and who he's targeting. But I think that the more we go into the season and in the signs that we see early on, I know that like a lot of people were panicking after the first 2 weeks about the Caleb Williams and the Bears thing, but I do think that we are going to kind of reach some kind of middle ground here very shortly, and realize that the Caleb thing I think is going to work out. It's just going to be, it's going to take a few weeks, and we're already kind of seeing marginal improvements, even if it's not, it's not going to be the Cowboys every week, but it's at least encouraging to know that like he is seemingly like going to be the right guy for this job, I think.
To talk about Caleb and the statistical breakdown a little bit, with Robertson, I did this last week, 2 games this year through 2 games last year. A quick update on that through 3 games last year versus this year. He's got 715 yards compared to 630 last year, 7 touchdowns and 1 pick this year to 2 touchdowns, 4 picks last year, 6 sacks this year to 13 last year. He's got an additional 30 rushing yards. His yards per attempt this year is 7.7. Last year at this time it was 5.3. This game tops his. He had 1 game last year of this ilk, and it was like mid-season against the Panthers. So it was like just getting comfortable with everybody around before everyone started getting fired and against the worst defense of maybe all time. Now listen, the Cowboys could very well
They
top
might,
that defense.
yeah, the way it looks, maybe.
But we're here in week 3 and this is with a vastly better built offensive system. Um I did say last week with Caleb Williams, like maybe he'll never reach what he should have been. But you look at guys like Trevor Lawrence and Kyler Murray, who we've talked about extensively, and maybe he just becomes this like above the line franchise quarterback. Like this is a guy that like you make your franchise quarterback and you just try to build around him and like he's good enough to like meet that bar. The difference with those two guys is neither of them had a an offensive play caller that was really pushing the boundaries of what they could do and getting them to reach that. We were just happy when Keith Urban. We were just happy when we were just happy when Doug Peterson came in to like set a floor for the Jags as a franchise and even an offense a little bit. But it was never anything where we were like, oh, this is really gonna like push what Trevor Lawrence can do with his abilities. Caleb Williams is gonna get pushed being in this offense. Um, right now, Chicago is uh oh wait, these were copied from last week. So let's see. They are Caleb is up to ninth in total EPA per dropback now after this week. Um, and the team is up to 15th in EPA per play and 16th in DVOA. They were third and second in week 3 in those stats respectively. Even if they settle there, even if they just settle into like an average offense and Caleb looks like an above average quarterback with the really high flashes and he can do have a game like this once a month, to me that still screams like, hey, everything's gonna be okay. Like this is already so much better than where we were at last year. And then the usage of the roster, I was really frustrated by the Bird and Loveland picks, and I've talked about that enough on this pod. I won't continue. But as compliments to Roma Dunze, if they're gonna make him the dude like he needed to be last year, that's awesome. If everybody just kind of falls into their place, that's great. Yeah, you look at the alignments of everybody, and it's like Burden's starting to eat into those slot snaps. but also like Cole Kmet. I thought it was interesting. I was just looking up. He has like the same distribution of like his percentages of in line to slot to wide as Colson Loveland does. So yeah, Ben Johnson's just like he's feeling out like six different pass catchers and trying to figure out where to put them, which is super interesting.
To be fair, like Komet was a very good athlete and like actually had some versatility coming out of college. And I wonder if it's just that like nobody knew how to use him before, and so maybe going into before he even got because like obviously the drafts before you get into like any kind of off-season training and stuff. I wonder if Ben Johnson just didn't realize he kind of already had like one of these guys who was already kind of versatile as a tight end. It was like, oh, I didn't know you could do all this. It's like, yeah, he wasn't asked to because they just didn't use him like that. Um, and instead, I forget who they were. Weren't they? I forget there was another tight end that they were playing over him as well, like a lot of the time. Anyways, all that to say, I can't remember the tight end's name. It was like
Ger Last year when they had Gerald Everett,
it might have been Gerald, whatever, but
or
it
even
feels like
early
it.
on.
I think it might have been like even early on. Like they just all have always had like another like Adam
Hmm.
Shaheen or something like that
Hmm.
was like a guy who they played over Komet early on, and it just never seems like Komet has been given a chance to just be the guy that's used in that role. But more to your point, like about the oh shoot, there was a point I was gonna make there, and now I lost it.
The
Um,
distribution of guys and his percent Loveland's and Komet's
yeah,
distribution being similar to being in different spots.
yeah. So I wonder if if there is too much overlap there to where you're saying like yeah maybe it was a little puzzling when they took Loveland that early. Like do you instead go to the defensive side of the ball? Clearly the defense needs some help. Like it's not been great so far. So that part is a little confusing. But going back to the point of Caleb is that like even like you're saying that the points about the play callers, that's what it was. We're just now seeing Trevor Lawrence get a guy
Yeah.
that we deem as this play caller who can actually create an offense that challenges what the quarterback can do and pushes them to the limits to try and reach their full potential, right? And Kyler, I think that there was times where Cliff did that to him.
Early,
I don't know if
early
it was
on. Yep.
yeah,
Early on,
and
brand new stuff.
I think it's just a matter of if the team can sustain enough success, like at actual record and all this stuff with Ben Johnson, like I think that long term the prospects are going to look a lot better for Caleb than maybe we thought.
Yeah. No, I think the signs are certainly promising. I think
Yeah.
that was a big timely win for the Bears. Who do they have moving forward? This is
They have the
just around the
Raiders this
time.
week. They have the which that's prime. That's like prime opportunity for Caleb
Yep.
to either prove me completely wrong and it's like up same dude or build momentum. Which would be funny if he just does
And
absolutely
they have
nothing.
and then they have a bye, and then the Commanders, Saints. So they have a nice little run here where they get a good runway before they play the Ravens. They this this could be the turning point. This could be the turning point. We'll see. All right, this is cool. I'm excited for Caleb Williams, um, and this trio of guys, and even this quartet with the picture of Terrell Owens here. I'm excited for these guys that are shown on this graphic. Let's get into our final award. My final award. So we've had the quick reset. We've had the return to last save point. This is a you just get up in the middle of the game and you turn it off and you walk away and you do something else for the rest of the day and you maybe never play this game again. This is the quit and walk away award. And this specifically is going to the Houston Texans offensive line and their offense overall. And I don't know, we'll eventually get your thoughts on if we think this has any bigger picture concerns of CJ Stroud. But right now, I am fraught. I have so many notes on this, and it's barely even statistically based. I sent Ben several Slack messages the other week about I can't believe the deployment of the offensive line that the Texans have chosen to go to. So this group doesn't look any better than last year. Let me start with the stats to keep people interested before I go off the rails. Stroud has taken 8 sacks in 3 games, which is tied for fourth in the NFL and is on a 45 sack pace for the season. despite an above average time to throw of 2.73. So he's getting out quick. He's getting sacked a bunch. The run game is 27th in success rate, 17th in EPA per rush, and 18th in DVOA. So it's still below average run game. They are 24th and 27th in ESPN's pass rush and run block win rates, respectively. So his offensive line is still terrible. This starts with their personnel choices. By the way, they traded Laramie Tunsil this offseason. Remember when that happened? So,
And Kenyon Green.
yeah, can't agree.
Not that it doesn't matter, but yeah.
But still, yes. So I was actually a mild defender of some of the pieces they had in the building afterwards, right? So Cam Robinson actually wasn't bad last year for a guy who actually played for two teams. Blake Fisher was fine for a second round pick who only started in 5 games. Laken Tomlinson is fine as a fifth starter. It's a lot of just fine, right? Ariante Ursery, I liked as a developmental guy in the second round. Fast forward to the start of the season, and the starters are Ursery, week one starter, Laken Tomlinson, Jake Andrews, Ed Ingram,
Yeah.
and Titus Howard. Yeah, that's going on Twitter.
That dude sucks because I watched him for a whole season allow everybody to come through like a bull at the what's the place in Spain that they what's it
I don't
called?
know.
The running of the bulls.
Yeah, that sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brother, I'm talking about eighth offensive lineman on the Houston Texans. I don't know what you're talking about. Ingram should be their swing guard at best, if not inactive on game days. And yet he beats out Cam Robinson and Blake Fisher first spot in the starting five, pushing Titus Howard to right tackle, where he hasn't played consistently in like 4 years because they keep moving this man around. He just can't catch a break. Ursery was supposed to be the swing tackle as a rookie. So when I'm making my offensive line rankings, and I'm like, okay, Cam Robinson, like C, C plus, Blake Fisher, C, C plus, Ariante Ursery, cool. Like 8 weeks into the season, if one of those guys goes down or they're not playing well, like Ursery will be ready. And then like literally a week after we do that episode, it's like, oop, Ursery beats out Blake Fisher. It looks like he's going to start at right tackle. And I was like, ooh, that considering Ursery didn't play right tackle in college, that doesn't say a lot of good things about Blake Fisher. All right, that's troubling. A week later, we're getting close to cut downs. Oh, the Texans want to trade Cam Robinson because Ursery is going to beat him out for left tackle. Ooh, that's not great. Based on where I felt Ursery was coming out, this to me didn't say Ursery looks awesome, so he's going to be the starting left tackle from day one. This was, ooh, Robinson and Fisher are bad, and or the team just feels like, hey, we need to make Ursery the guy because we drafted him high and he has the best long-term prospects, so like we're just going to force him into this role. To make matters worse on the Ursery front, week one, Ed Ingram gets injured. Just gotta have it, stud Ed Ingram in the lineup. So if he's going to be hurt, we have to change our entire lineup. Let's move Ursery to right tackle because we need Cam Robinson to start, but we can only have him start at left tackle, even though this is only going to be 1 week, right? We have to mess up this entire thing. We have to mess up this plan for this rookie so Cam Robinson can start for 1 week at left tackle. And by the way, Titus Howard, who we're finally moving back to right tackle, let's let him play right guard for Ed Ingram so Ariante Ursery can play out of position for 1 week. The stupidest thing I've ever seen, man. The stupidest thing I've ever seen. Meanwhile, you could have just say, hey, Cam Robinson, you have to play right tackle this week. And it could have all been, or you could have just said like, hey, I mean, anybody, or anybody. You could have done anything else. There's no development plan or even a plan for the players and a best way to deploy these guys. So this brings me to the offensive line coach. Cole Popovich is the head coach or is the coach of the offensive line. When Bobby Slowick was released, was fired from the Texans, we were like, great, new offensive system. Here we go. Like we're gonna fix this. And Chris Strausser was also let go. He was the head offensive line coach last year. Cole Popovich was the assistant offensive line coach for 2 years for the Texans. They just promoted the assistant for the bad offensive line and made him in charge of the offensive line. So all the bad schemes and coaching, it's really just sticking around, but a new face maybe being in charge of it. Popovich's experience is also lacking. He's a college and high school coach assistant until like 4 years with the Patriots as a like assistant of assistants, like offensive assistant and like assistant run game statistician, or is that's not even a word, but not a real coach for a long time with the Patriots. After 1 year of being a co-offensive line coach with the Patriots, not even a co-offensive line, they just let anybody do the job. And that was probably even the year it was like Matt Patricia was offensive line coach and offensive coordinator, so you know that was dysfunctional. But after that, he goes back and he coaches high school again for a year, and then coaches college again for a year, and then he's just in the NFL with D'Amico Ryans. I don't know where or how this happened. Part of why he sticks around is those Patriot years. Nick Caley was there. Nick Caley's the offensive coordinator, so we're like, okay, we're melding of the minds here. It's so frustrating, not and like we can get into the whole like even if there were holes there like Nick Chubb, like what is he going to do for the run game at this point? And even if Joe Mixon was healthy, like Mixon is just like kind of a workhorse Najee Harris type. Like he's not going to break things for you. Passing game downfield, Stroud is getting the ball out so quick now compared to his rookie year. I heard Derek Klassen from The Athletic call it Justin Herbert 2.0, like crazy rookie year, but like you don't know what you don't know. And then when you start to not trust your offensive line or your offense or your pass catchers, you just start like easy button stuff, like do a lot of the check downs, like throw the ball away. And it's like, oh, we're gonna have to do like 3 years of Stroud just like putting up mediocre stuff with this team. And that's gonna be frustrating. Well, we could touch on Stroud later, but I am rage quit like this, it's just over. The Texans are 0-3. They have one of the worst offenses in the NFL. They clearly don't know how to fix the offensive line, which is where the issues have been from going back to last year, even 2 years ago, and it's just like we can't save this. There's not a go back to the last save point with this team, right? Where they were drafting. I mean, I guess could they have just taken Josh Simmons? But even then, like I don't like nothing. This is like rudimentary issue, right? This is a like D'Amico Ryans to Cole Popovich to Nick Casario issue on what's going on with this offensive line. And it's over and it's not going to get fixed. The offense is going to be bad all year. They're already on 3. It's probably all done. So I'm quitting and walking away from the Texans and specifically their offensive line.
As is understandable because I don't see I think I can probably you and I can do the whole diagnosis of like how do we get here because I actually don't think it's that complicated. Like I think it's just you a very much hyper focus on building out the defense and the wide receiver core to support your quarterback.
You need
Especially in this
6
last
above
draft.
average off ball linebackers instead of a good offensive tackle, D'Amico
Right,
Ryans. And like,
right.
I
And
love off ball linebackers, but man,
the one that was which this was confusing when it happened is just spend did you really need two Iowa State wide receivers who I liked coming out of the draft if for this team? Like, did you really need those guys to be a productive passing game after you traded for Christian Kirk in addition to that? And then not only that, but I know Kenyon Green wasn't working, and I get that. But the fact you trade Kenyon Green, and it's funny that you bring this is kind of coming up now, but you
hmm
trade Kenyon Green for Jonathan Gardner Johnson, who you literally released today. So if you even needed a guy who, yeah, he wasn't great for you, but he's another guy you can at least throw in there, and maybe there's still he's better than Ed Ingram. I'll say that is I guess like that's the baseline we're working with, which is just
Apparently, that's a really like important bar to set if you're the Houston Texans. Like, can you
right,
beat out Ed Ingram from a spot? It's really important.
right. So to me, I think diagnosing what the Texans did wrong to result in this, and I mean obviously they trade away Laramie Tunsil, and I get the like liquidating the asset kind of part of it. It's just what you did during the draft and the offseason that just didn't match up with anything you wanted to do after. And I guess my thing is with Stroud, I don't necessarily have like a lot of people are worried about Stroud, and I get it because in this league there it's the old adage of more quarterbacks ruined than developed, so to speak.
hmm
And I mean it does not take a lot to ruin a quarterback prospect. We saw Stroud excel in his rookie year, and then obviously has and I mean a lot of people were still, I don't want to say they were out on Justin Herbert, but like there was very much like the nerd Justin Herbert hive that was still sticking around and
I'll
being
say
like,
it. A lot of people were out on Justin Herbert.
yes, yeah, except for, except for the nerds,
Yeah,
which
not here on the show. That's for sure.
not for me either. But it can be easy to give up on a guy when the situation creates bad habits, which is what I think a lot of people are worried about with Stroud at this point. Like he's already had a year of developing some of these bad habits, and now you're making the situation worse to where he's going to continue to delve even further into them. Um, I don't. While I still believe in Stroud as a quarterback, I don't know that like his athleticism is such
Right.
that he can kind of overcome the like issues with the time to throw, the issue like the pressure like that he's getting already, and it's creating, even if they had this concept and idea of like the new offensive coordinator is going to come in Nick Caley, right? That's his name. I don't know why. I'm bad with coordinator names. Nick Caley's going to come in and reinvigorate this offense that just did not work with Slowick last year. And to see, it's just it doesn't even matter what you did in the offseason and the offense that you developed with the new coordinator. It's just your plan gets, it's the old, like Mike Tyson. It's like everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. Like
Right.
they're literally getting like punched in the nose before they can walk in the door of the building. And so it's a matter of whatever plan they had in the offseason for how this offense they wanted it to look. It doesn't matter because it's just not going to look that way at all, because you can't even get into the concepts you want to get into. It's just it's physically impossible for them to run the offense that they want to run. So it's just, at this point, it's CJ Stroud, run around as fast as you can. He would just not like super duper fast and make something happen, or we pass and like wait until we can do something in the run game. Whenever it's like, oh, we didn't expect you to do that. It's not because of the good concept. It's just for the incompetence of a defense. Like, for instance, on the the one that stands out is that Nick Chubb touchdown run against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which wasn't really like, oh, that was like a great scheme. It was more the flow of the game, and they probably didn't expect the Texans to run that play in that
And
situation.
Titus Howard, the one good offensive lineman, made like one good block, and like sometimes that's all
Right,
it takes. And it's like more of that, more of that.
right,
But you need more good offensive linemen to make that happen. So
right. And weirdly, this is like it. I know that here's the other thing. I know the Joe Mixon thing. It had a weird arc in the way the injury
mhm.
developed. Why is that not detected much earlier in the offseason, to where you can actually understand, hey, yeah, this guy's probably not going to play this season. Um,
Let's
we
do something.
kind of, yeah, we need to have a better plan than a Nick Chubb who is just not the same guy that he was before,
Mm.
and Woody Marks, who, while I like him as a idea of a player, is primarily a pass catcher. So it none of it really fits the team's idea of what they wanted to do in the first place, because there's no coming back from this. Like you said, I just don't. I want to find like a escape hatch, and it's just I don't think there's a different route for this team. I think this is just what this year's going to be, which sucks for CJ Stroud. It sucks for really everybody on the team. Like I ultimately, like, I hate that this. I fear that this is because a lot of people probably felt, weirdly, a lot of people probably felt this way about another team in the AFC. Like, I would almost rather be the Browns this year than the Texans, which is saying a lot, because
Yeah.
they're very similarly built, where it's these like high powered defenses that are, considered probably top five in the league, especially the Browns. Like the Browns at this point, I think are considered that as well by the majority of people. I think that surprised people how dominant they are again. But offensively, like the Browns can actually do some stuff, and it's an old offensive line, but it at least like it works enough.
Yes. Yep.
And I don't think, if you would have told me that, I would have been more confident in the Browns build and their way that they have designed their team to win games, especially on the offensive side of the ball than the Texans. And I think that maybe that's probably one thing I would probably go back, and it's one of the like the bigger things I just did not expect. I expected to be bad, but like I think much like you and people like you and me, even if we expected to be bad, it wasn't like all time one of the worst offensive lines we've seen to the point where you can't operate an offense in any capacity.
Yeah, when I lay out the like what I expect to be the line in my head, and I even when I did that show with Ben and Shane, I like was looking at the training camp notes, like, okay, what are teams actually doing? I didn't just say like what I thought the best group would be. But early in training camp, like this wasn't the plan, right? So you said it, like there's no way to like go back and like adjust because like the plan was something completely different, and it like immediately was like, oh, we messed up. So the fact that that's where they were at whatever point that was the beginning of July. So that might have been like the second week of training camp. It took them a week to 10 days of training camp basically to be like, oops, that, that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Blake Fisher didn't get any better. Cam Robinson actually does look like he's 33 and played for two teams last year. Wow, Ed Ingram's way more important. I accidentally became important at work, like Ed Ingram. It's not there's no hope. It's done. And I think like 11% of teams that have started 0-3 have made the playoffs. And I just looked at there's like 7 teams that are 0-3 right now. So like maybe this is the one, but I don't think it's going to be the case. So
Of the 0 and 3, just as a thought exercise, like of the 0 and 3 teams that you look at, like where do you even rank the Texans as teams that you would pick if you're doing like a draft of the
yeah,
teams to make the playoffs? Like in a weird
pull it back up.
way, I would arguably, and they have not been great, but I would definitely pick I think the Dolphins over them.
I knew you were going to
Like
say
the
that.
Dolphins have at least like
I would never. You just
I
know I
I,
would
I
never.
guess the other like 0 and 3 teams, if we're looking at it, like I think I wouldn't take the Titans over them, of course.
No,
Giants Giants are an interesting one with
moving
Dart.
to Jackson Dart.
Yeah,
Hmm.
moving to Dart
Dart.
now, at least there's like some kind of argument to be made. I don't know if I would do it, but
At least they'll be fun now.
yeah, I
Not
like
not the
I think
Saints, not the Titans.
like if I'm picking it, like I think the Jets
I know,
arguably
like
have a
yeah,
case.
like because the Jets have been surprisingly bad on defense to start. So like, is there a turnaround there? I mean, I think
Right.
I would still ultimately take the Texans because the defense is at least living up to its end of the bargain. So if we're just gonna base it on that, and again, the theme of the show apparently for me, if the defense can be really, really good and the offense can like just make just enough plays, but like maybe that's the and like we haven't seen the Jets defense be that good yet. Like we know Miami's defense isn't gonna be that good. So is that
Right.
offense gonna be elite and are they gonna sustain through the whole year? Their jerseys are gonna be sick though on whatever their next primetime game is Thursday, Monday. I saw that release come out today. That was those look sick. Um
Wait, which ones?
they got this new black with the like
Are you talking
orange
about
and turquoise
Okay, all
lines
right.
going up
I
and down.
I gotta say, like,
Those are sick.
I don't
Those are
like
great.
them.
Those are great.
Those are
It's
they were my
hilarious
least
because they
favorite.
don't match the team at all. Like they're
No,
flashy, which is like the team, but that's supposed to be like gritty, flashy, like Tron kind of deal, and that's not what the team is. So it doesn't actually work, but it looks sick. We're at an hour 38. We're not
yeah,
gonna
we
we're
are.
not gonna keep this conversation going. Um,
Uniform talk is actually sneakily one of my favorite things to talk about.
it's
Uniform design.
it's one of those things that if I really sit down, I can formulate opinions on. But when I'm actually watching the games, I actually don't care. I
You don't
actually
care,
like,
like, yeah.
yeah. It should be
There's
an
only a
element,
couple
but like
times where
I could sit down and like have real opinions of it. But it's we're not doing this right now. We're not doing
yeah.
this while the podcast is still rolling. We'll do this for 45 minutes after. All right. That's gonna do it for us here, everybody. So Box Score Network, check out the pods, check out Peyton on two Ps with his brother Parker. All of our friends on Box Score Network. Make sure you check them out. Make sure you check out Box Score Network's YouTube channel and get updates, especially fantasy updates there. But you'll hear from this podcast and others while you're on there. If you're on this podcast YouTube channel, thank you. Subscribe, stick around, comment, like the video. If you're listening on audio and you're like, Simon's on YouTube now, just go search my name on YouTube. That's where you'll find the show. And hopefully soon I'm going to start having some other things go up along with the podcast episodes. So be on the lookout for that and be on the lookout for more pods next week here and wherever you listen to pods, whether it's with Peyton, whether it's with Josh or any of the other friends on Simon and Friends podcast. Thank you, Peyton, for being here once again. Thank you all so much for listening. We will talk to you again next week. Have fun and be safe out there.